Welcome to interview. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our series, Meet the Candidates. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing and interviewing Barbie Harden Hall, who is running for 11th District here in Florida, Congress. And we're going to get to know her and see how everything goes. Okay. So, first question. Well, first off, let me ask you a little bit about yourself, Barbie.
Yeah, my
Tell
name
me
is
a little bit.
Barbie Harden Hall. I'm running here in the 11th district, and the current representative is Daniel Webster. And he has a tough primary challenge, which the biggest running challenge he has there in the Republican primaries against Anthony Sabatini. But I am currently the only Democrat in the race, so I don't have a primary challenge to focus on. But I was born and raised here in Lake County, so basically lived here my whole life. I went to Christian Home Bible School in Mount Dora, which is now Mount Dora Christian Academy, from preschool all the way up to graduating. And my husband's from Apopka. He went to Apopka High School, and then once we got married, we lived in Apopka for a little bit, and then I was able to convince him to move back to Mount Dora. So that is where we currently live with our 3 children. We did have 4 children. Actually, today is our 9-year anniversary. Um,
Oh, anniversary.
Thank you. So we had 4 children, and after our third child was born, he was completely perfectly normal, um, happy, healthy boy. But around a year and a half, he stopped walking suddenly. So, and I was 7 months pregnant at the time with our fourth child. We started on this diagnostic journey of trying to figure out what was wrong, only to find out a few months later that he had a rare genetic condition that was fatal and had no cure.
Oh,
So
God.
he was given a 5-year possible lifespan at that point. We went and had he had a cord blood transplant up in Pittsburgh in hopes of kind of slowing the progression of the disease, which is a progressive neurological disease. So
Mm.
basically, first start off not being able to walk, not being able to sit up, then it becomes not being able to talk, to eat, to swallow. So a lot of people describe it as a mix between an ALS and like a dementia or
Gosh.
Alzheimer's, but it happens in like a 2-year-old child.
Mm.
Um, but unfortunately, he passed away from complications from his cord blood transplant when we were in Pittsburgh. So from when he was diagnosed to when he passed away, it was about 6 months. So that happened 2 years ago. And since then, just working on, advocating for children with rare diseases, for children with metachromatic leukodystrophy, which is what he had, and then newborn screening, which is a way to get it diagnosed in time to be able to receive life-saving gene therapy treatment. So during that all process is kind of what got me to this point of running for office, just kind of seeing the inaction at the federal level, obviously protection of healthcare and access to affordable healthcare, but also the fact that, you know, families like mine, everyday working middle class Americans don't have representation at the federal level and in Congress. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of fighting in Congress and focus on political wins and losses as opposed to actually getting stuff done that affects our everyday lives. So that's kind of what got me to this point, and that's why I'm running.
Excellent. My heart goes out to you as a parent as well. Um, Thank you so much for sharing that. That was incredibly moving, and my heart goes out to you. Um, uh, so let's see. What unique qualifications and experiences do you bring to the position, or do you think that you'll bring to the position?
Well, like I said, I think that we are, me as a woman, me as a mother with school-aged children, but also as a working or middle-class American, we don't have representation in Congress. Um,
Right.
and, that's one thing people ask me is, what are your qualifications for the office? Well, the only required qualifications are that you're at least 25 years old, you've been a citizen for at least 7 years in the United States, and that you reside in the state that you're running. And the reason that those are the only qualifications is it's because it's supposed to be representative of the people of our country. But unfortunately, we've kind of gotten this idea that only a certain type of person with a law degree or some other type of advanced degree, or somebody that's been in politics their whole life, or somebody with very deep pockets, or, stock portfolios, are the only ones that are qualified for these positions. And unfortunately, that turns into us not being represented, us not having a voice in the foundations of our government and how our lives are governed at the federal level. So to me, those are my qualifications, is I meet all of the federal
Yes.
constitutional qualifications, but also I have the unique capability of having a representation of the people and being able to be a voice for the needs of the people of, how am I going to pay for my mortgage this month? Like,
Right.
how am I going to be able to pay for my property insurance this year, and those types of things.
Excellent. Excellent.
Sorry.
What are your top priorities and critical issues you plan to address first if you're elected?
Yes. So my biggest thing right now, and obviously for a lot of people here in Florida, is women's healthcare rights, but also reproductive healthcare, because I believe that it has consequences in ways that a lot of people don't recognize right away, especially with, the fetal personhood that has been kind of in the news, which puts IVF at risk. For me, somebody who is a carrier of a genetic condition, and my husband was a carrier, we had no idea. It was passed down through our family. And it's when you get two carriers together that then you get this fatal disease. My
Mm,
three surviving children are all carriers.
mm,
And when they want to have children one day, if they don't want to pass on the carrier gene, or if for some reason the person that they may want to have children with is also a carrier, IVF with genetic testing of embryos is the only way they can safely do that. Um,
exactly.
but also, I feel like it's not going to stop there. We're going to have issues with birth control. We're going to have issues with, you know, trans medical rights and getting access to make your own healthcare decisions with your own body. And I think it's just going to have far reaching repercussions, more than just what people think about as the traditional abortion.
That
Um,
is
as I already said, the needs of working and everyday middle class Americans is very important to me, making sure that the affordability issue in the United States, and most especially here in Florida, um, is taken into account, and the protection of not only the Affordable Health Care Act, but also Medicare, Social
mm,
Security. And we protect those things, and we do those things by making the ultra wealthy and billionaires pay their fair share of taxes. And then the other thing would just possibly be being a voice against government interference and these culture wars,
right.
trying to legislate some kind of religious morals that has absolutely no place in our government.
Excellent. Um, let's see. How do you plan to engage with how do you plan excuse me how do you plan to engage with and represent the diverse community within our district
I
within the
think
11?
that the biggest thing, and something that the current representative does not do, is he doesn't engage at all.
Right.
So I had issues when I was trying to advocate for my family and children like my own. He wouldn't meet with anybody. And I was told, well, that's just how Daniel Webster is. Unless you provide some kind of a political benefit to him, you don't get his
Mm.
time. And to me, when you're representative of a district, you give everybody your time equally, no matter if they share the same views as you, no matter if they're of a different party.
Right.
Your job is to represent them and not just a certain type of person within that community. So, one would be to give everybody the equal time, consideration, and respect, no matter if they share the same views as me or not. But also being present within the community. I don't intend to, if I'm elected, just disappear and become, a Washington, D.C. politician. I'm, like I said, born and raised here in Mount Dora. I'm a Mount Dora resident, 5 generations on my mom's side, 3 generations on my
Wow.
dad's side. I am highly connected to this area. So I don't plan on disappearing. I want to stay connected to the area, stay connected to the needs of the people, but I think be more inclusive of who gets a voice and who gets face time and who gets consideration from the district and not just a certain type or class of people.
Excellent. Let's see. What is your stance on key policy areas such as healthcare, education, economic development, and environmental protections?
So, environmental protections, I'll start off with that. Here in Lake County, as you know, so much of our area is facing overdevelopment
Yes.
and increased spread. And unfortunately, as you know, what happens is a lot of the county and state level are going against the wishes of local government and protecting some of those areas. So to me, I think, not only do we need to protect our rural areas and the beautiful things that make our community so special, we also need to, we're going to grow, but there needs to be
To ne-
responsible growth. We need to have the infrastructure in place, the schools in place to back it up because I kind of feel like we're already behind the game. Also, I feel
yes.
like environmentally, climate change is an issue all throughout the US, but I think it's going to disproportionately affect Floridians. We're kind of already seeing it with these intense hurricanes more than I ever experienced growing up. And all of a sudden, it's like every hurricane is like a category 4, category 5.
Mhm.
Flooding, which again plays a role into property insurance here in Florida. It's not
Mhm.
going to get better if our climate continues to decline and we don't address it, which
Yeah.
again, Florida, tourism, agriculture, all these things that are so important to our economic health are going to be completely destroyed if climate change continues to not be addressed.
Yeah.
So economic development, I believe you said,
Mhm.
I think we have to support small businesses at the federal level. That's going to be allowing or not allowing, making corporations pay their fair share, um, and really benefiting and putting a lot of this attention that is right now towards corporate tax cuts and moving that and assisting people, entrepreneurs, small businesses to have a healthy chance. So contracts, federal contracts, government contracts, I think should be going to small businesses and local businesses wherever possible, as opposed to corporations. Because again, I think that there's a little bit more care and concern for a local small business than there would be from a huge corporation to come in and do it. And I'm sorry, give me the other ones that
No
you said.
problem. Healthcare.
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 So healthcare has become incredibly important for me because of everything our family went through. We in Florida specifically, we have an incredible, horrible issue with Medicaid. Our governor turned away federal Medicaid funds. and wanted a pat on the back. But in reality, it's not like those funds go back and then we all get a check or anything like
Right.
that. It goes to something else. Over 1 million kids in Florida have been kicked off of Medicaid, and they're kids with complex medical issues. Kids like my son would have been with a fatal disease that can't get care out of state, even though that there's no providers in the state of Florida, um, and families that are going to be struggling to buy health care anywhere else. Plus, it's
Gotcha.
a protection of the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
I got my health insurance on the marketplace. We own a small business. That's how we're able to get health care coverage. And unfortunately, if the Republicans are able to get control of the House, the Senate, and the presidents, they they will cut off the Affordable Health Care Act, and
Yeah.
millions of Floridians alone will lose coverage, including myself, including my family. So that's incredibly
Yeah.
important to me, but
Yeah.
also making sure that healthcare remains affordable, accessible. Um, it's a broken system. Again, I think Obamacare really helped, but there's so much more that we need to do as far as healthcare.
Excellent. Let's see. How do you plan to work across party lines to achieve, when possible, bipartisan solutions in the Florida House?
Well, it's for Congress, so it would be up in DC. I
Excuse me.
think that what we're seeing now, and it's on both sides of the aisle, unfortunately, is people unwilling to work together to get things done. Um, I think that we have to work across the aisle. I think we have to find common ground in order to get any movement. And unfortunately, the reason why this is the least productive Congress since the Great Depression is because we're too focused on what political parties' wins or losses are and not on getting solutions for Americans who actually need it. You
Right.
mentioned the Florida House, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
people see that property insurance here in Florida is a huge issue. And they just ended their legislative session, and nothing of substance was done to address Florida homeowners insurance.
Exactly.
Um, so I don't know why. Nobody's getting an answer on that, but we can no longer ignore some of these horrible issues like our border security. I think you have people on both sides of the aisle that know that that is an incredible issue and something has to be done. But we're
Yes.
seeing it not getting done because it's an election year, and that should not happen. Um,
Definitely.
no. So to me, we have to work across the aisle. We have to find common ground, and we have to do what is necessary to help people's lives and to fix the issues that we're seeing.
I believe it's totally possible. What strategies do you have in place to address the specific needs and concerns of your constituents in the 11th district?
So there's a few things I think that there has to be open communication. There has to be local representation as far as offices and office staff. The current representative, Daniel Webster, has really cut back on funding for not only local resources and offices, but also his office staff to be able to have constituents come in and get immediate help on important and necessary issues. Um, but I also believe that along with that is if I'm elected, I have to maintain an open dialogue and connection with the district. I can't just disappear. I just can't be seen in DC and um, no longer be connected to the area, because when that happens, you lose touch with what people need and what people want. And so to me, that's the biggest thing is being able to maintain open communication, open dialogue, There's a company I believe here out of Florida, and they're doing it for the Florida House, and they're about to expand it to federally, where it's an app that representatives can reach out to people and they can vote on different bills on how they want the bill to
Hmm.
be voted on. So to
Hmm.
me, that is a way, an easy way for people to be truly involved in,
That's fantastic. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. So when you're in Washington, to, trying to decide, literally your constituents could be sending you messages on your app.
yeah,
That's
you
awesome.
can literally send it. And like I said, I haven't seen it, what they're doing at the federal level, but as a legislator, you can send to your constituents, this bill is currently being decided and it's up
Right.
for a vote. This is what it means. What do you th do you think that this is something that we should move forward with or not, and why?
What a
And
great.
that way you have an overall idea of, or a survey of what the people are trying to say about a specific bill. Because
Exactly.
right now, people have to on their own call or email or
Yeah.
connect with the office and say, no, I don't want you to vote on this and this is why. But this would
Right.
be a more, and then to see, you have to like connect the dots to say, okay, this percentage of people had favorable emails and this one didn't. But this is a way to get like very quick, real time
Mm.
responses. And to me, we have the technology to do that. So why not
Exactly.
do it? Why not be able to know directly from the people what they want?
Because yeah, it's like policy or whatever that's put forth shouldn't just be the vision of the politician. It should
Right.
be spurred by the wants and needs of the people.
Hmm.
So yeah, that is really great. That's really cool. Let's see. Okay, excuse me. How do you plan to promote transparency and accountability if you're elected?
I mean, I think that kind of goes along with anything, and that's not being having an open dialogue with, this is how I'm voting, or this is how I feel this way, and this is why I'm doing it. Because to
Exactly.
me, you have to answer and you have to be able to respond to your constituents as to what you're doing. And if you can't come up with a good reason as to why you are or are not voting for a bill and being open and honest with that, to me, that's the biggest thing.
That's a
Because
problem.
because my party told me to vote this way is not a good enough reason.
No.
To me, it's, I voted for this way because of X, Y, and Z, and this is how it's going to affect the district. This is how it's going to affect the country. And that's why it's either a positive or a negative, or, I voted no this time, but instead I'm going to present, a bill that has these positives that I see with it, but change these things that are negative or whatever. But to me, that's the biggest thing we see is there's a lot of open dialogue with some representatives on Fox News or CNN or, on the media, but when it comes to the actual people they're representing, there's a lot of
A
silence. And
disconnect.
I just don't want
Yeah.
that.
Seems like there's a large disconnect there. So yeah, that would be, transparency is extremely important. We talked about small business. How do you plan to support them? We talked about economic growth. Um, okay. What measures do you propose to address the affordable housing and homelessness, the increased homelessness that we're seeing here in the 11th district?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and some of this is going to be at the state level, is addressing the homeowners insurance crisis that we're having right now. My house it was built 2 years ago, and between the first year and the second year, our homeowners insurance quadrupled.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, so for my family personally, I've seen that become a huge issue.
Mm,
Um, including with property taxes, which I think are not always going towards the things that we want or need it to. But I think that there are creative solutions because as most of us see, we have, you know, unhoused people here in the district, and it seems to only be getting worse.
Yes.
And in order to address that, I think we can come up with some creative ways to do it. There is here in Eustis a organization, and they just built a tiny home development for children who are aging out of the foster care system and don't have any place
Yes.
to go. To me, that's a
Yes.
creative solution to be able to
Mhm.
give, these children who cannot afford a house on their own, who cannot afford a rental on their own, and be able to have the independence to get off on the right foot. But I also think we have to address, homelessness around veterans is also really bad.
It is.
And again, that's something that can be addressed at the federal level. I believe that we have areas and opportunities where we can look into something creative like a tiny home community, giving people independence, giving people a start. But again, I think we have to address some of this affordability issues all across the board. Like I said, here in Florida, the big thing is insurance, homeowners insurance, which is only going to get worse. Worse, health insurance, healthcare costs are always going to be a problem unless we fix it, possibly with a, one payer system at the federal level. Um, but even with affordable healthcare marketplace, it's still very expensive. We're still paying out of pocket for care. Um, but yeah, I think here at the local level, we really have to work on, you know, vouchers for people to be able to get access to care or to homes. Um,
Correct.
yeah.
If I could just interject for one moment. Um, I dealing with people for so long and working at the PD, and people would come out of jail and not have anything, and like there has been money spent here in Lake County for a new pet shelter that cost, an enormous amount of money. We have the money here. No person should be sleeping on the street in Lake County, Florida. It is disturbing, and I see it increase so much more. We had our food box, but we like you just can't do enough. So I thank you for your thoughts on it, and I know that you will, if possible, to help here in Lake County with this problem because it really is only getting worse.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I've driven personally by places where it's like an abandoned or an old like hotel or a motel, and it's just sitting there empty. And it's like, look,
utilize it.
what
Yeah,
what can we do with a little bit of money to be able to remake this place as a place for veterans to come and live that don't have money and don't have a home, and be able to help them get a place to live off the streets and be able to
hmm,
get them resources to get a job or to get
all
um,
of it. Yeah,
well, this is something again that you as a representative in Congress can do. You help constituents where if it's a veteran, if it's somebody over the age of 65, do they have access or are they supposed to be getting some type of social security, some type of benefit that they don't have? And they just don't have the resources to get to where they need to get the stuff that they've already earned and that they need help with. So
right.
unfortunately, I think that that's also an issue is can we connect these people with the resources that they're entitled to, that they've earned, and help get them back on their feet.
Yes, yes. And just one more thing, also critical would be to have a shelter that allows women and children, because so many times they don't. Well, first of all, they don't have one, but a lot of times they're not admitted into the shelter for because it's just for men or whatever. So, that's women and children really need help, and yes. Let's see. talked about in the environment. Oh, how do you plan to address social justice issues and promote equality within our district?
I think that at the very most basic level, especially in many parts of the district, many parts of Lake County, we have to get back to a point where we can be kind and respect people and be accepting of people, no matter who they are, what their background is, what color their skin is, who they love, how they choose to live their life, XYZ, whatever it is. Because to me, unless we fix that, we're going to have a hard time fixing anything else.
You're right.
Um, growing up here in Lake County, growing up in an environment where hate, where people who were different were looked down on, and that's what I was raised in. And it took me a very long time, longer than it probably should have, to be able to say, wait a second, this is not right. This does not correlate to the things in the Bible that I was being taught all my life, but how we're acting and the things that you're saying don't work. It doesn't match. So, you know, unfortunately, even recently, we're seeing where DEI is
Mm.
becoming like, I don't even know what to call it because, we have
Well,
people,
yeah, I'm sorry. It's the next pretend boogeyman
yeah,
subject that they can. Yeah, it's just it's so
but it's like
yes.
a, it's again, it goes back to these culture wars. It goes back to these focusing on things that I don't even know why it's an issue. I don't know why there's this war on being able to make sure everybody is respected and included and given a fair share. Um, so to me, like that's down to the most basic bones is like there is no reason why, no matter whether you agree with somebody's life or their lifestyle or whatever the case may be, why that makes them entitled to be disrespectful, to be unkind, to be, again, just hateful. So
Exactly.
to me, it's bringing back like the basics of that. And that's, to me, I love, I respect, I welcome everybody because as a human being, like that's the most basic thing I can do. But once we're able to do that, once we are able to make sure people see that that's not asking a lot,
No,
it's like, okay, so now that we see that we all deserve an equal opportunity, we all deserve an equal shot at the benefits and our government, let's make sure that everybody is getting that because
yes,
it's supposed to cover all of us equally.
right.
So to me, that's just again, it's not extreme to me to think that everybody should be loved, respected, to
No,
have kindness, and to be equally represented by their government because we all pay into the system, we all vote for the people, we all have to have an equal say.
that's right. Civility definitely matters. Civility matters. Is well, this has been a pleasure. I've learned so much, and I've enjoyed talking with you. And I'm sure everyone who watches this is going to learn so much about you and your experience and your journey. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or maybe point out how you're different and what differences you would bring? Or
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would say that, and I like to tell people, yes, I'm running as a Democrat. However, I feel like as a representative, I have to be able to listen to, consider, and respect the views of other people whether they're the same as my own or not. That's the
Of course.
basics of the job. And unfortunately, I feel like the other people I'm running against, that's not an issue to them.
Yeah.
You have somebody like Daniel Webster who has been in office since 1980, and he's the longest serving politician in Florida right now. And last year he was found to be the least effective member of Congress because he just
Oof,
doesn't work, he just doesn't do anything. But
I read
also
that.
he's very extreme in his beliefs. He is very extreme in his anti-woman stance. Not only does he not believe in abortion access, you know, he shares views that IVF and birth control and even things like vasectomies and tubal ligations should be reversed because it's against the will of God or something, that women should be under the controls of their husband or their father.
Gosh.
Um, those types of things. We should not have somebody like that voting on us. But then his
Oof.
biggest primary challenger, Anthony Sabatini, who has only focused on culture wars, has only focused on how he's going to limit the rights of people within the district, within the
Right.
community, instead of actually helping and addressing the issues. Um, we don't need that chaos either. We don't need people to feel excluded or unwelcome from their community because of nothing that it affects him. Um, I think that to me, that is so incredibly important. Again, just to get back to the basics of respect, kindness, care, and concern about the people who live here and not about some political agenda. And to me, that's
That's
the only thing that's like the basics of what I believe. And like I said, I've lived here my whole life. I'm very connected to the community. I'm very connected to this area, and I only want what's best for it. I only want, I'm not doing this for some kind of self benefit or self promotion or to get on the news or anything like that. This is all actually very awkward for me, but to me, I feel like I've seen the ways my own family has been affected, and my grandfather used to say, like, if you're going to run your mouth about something and complain about something, you better do something about it. So to me, that's what led me here. And I
yeah.
hope I get the chance to try.
Awesome. Well, again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time out to speak with us. Did you want to give everyone your handles and shout outs on social media?
Sure. So on Facebook, it's Barbie Harden Hall. And my website is barbieforcongress.com, and it has links on there for everything. Um, for X, Twitter, Instagram, things like that. So, and then of course, if anybody else wants to chat or talk or ask any further questions, they can always email me and reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.